Have you ever felt like you've reached the end of your rope? As if everything is falling apart, and no one, absolutely no one, could possibly understand the pain you're going through? Have you ever laid your head on the pillow, eyes filled with tears, pleading with God for a sign, an answer, a way out? If you've ever felt this way, know this, you are not alone. There is a truth that needs to be spoken, and perhaps you've never heard it quite this clearly before. God hasn't finished with you. Today, this message is like a warm embrace from heaven. Maybe you think you've tried everything. You prayed enough. You cried enough. You've waited long enough. But what if today is the day God decides to begin something new in you? Have you ever felt as though God was silent? Like your prayers went up, but there was no response? As if your tears fell in silence and even the heavens didn't seem to care? Those days when you wake up with a heavy heart, go to bed with a weary soul, and deep down, all you wanted was a sign. Anything. A whisper from the skies saying, I'm here. Just hold on a little longer. But the silence continues. And it's in that silence that many give up, because silence hurts. Silence is frightening. Silence, many times, makes us believe we've been forgotten. But listen, God's silence is not the end. It's the preparation for something you're not yet seeing. The problem is, we've grown up hearing that if God loves, He speaks. If God cares, He answers. But what no one told you is that some of the greatest miracles in the Bible were preceded by long periods of silence. Think about Joseph, betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. Not for days, not for months, 4 years. Where was God during all this time? Didn't Joseph cry out day after day, asking for an answer? Didn't he weep in the darkness of the prison, asking, Lord, why is all of this happening to me? But God was there, in the silence, working on invisible things, shaping character, refining faith, placing the pieces in place, even when Joseph couldn't see a thing, because heaven works behind the scenes of our pain. And the question I ask you now, from one heart to another, is this: are you confusing silence with absence? Are you giving up because God didn't speak when you wanted, in the way you expected? The truth is, there are things that God can only build in the silence. There are healings that only happen in waiting. There is faith that only arises when all you have are unanswered questions. God's silence is not punishment. It's an invitation to trust. And I know this sounds difficult, because we want the answer. We want relief. We want the solution now. But what if what God is teaching you right now is not how to get out of this, but how to grow through it? Perhaps you're in a job you can no longer stand. You work hard, but you're never recognized. Perhaps your marriage is hanging by a thread, and every day feels like a battle. Or maybe you're dealing with the pain of a loss, the anxiety that takes your breath away, or loneliness that no one knows. And you ask, God, where are you? And He answers in the silence. But He's working. Look at what happened with Moses. He spent 40 years in the desert before hearing God in the burning bush. 40 years of silence. 40 years in which he probably thought his story had ended. In that profound silence, God was shaping the deliverer of a nation. We need to understand this. A season of waiting is never wasted time. It's in these quiet moments that God builds deep roots. When you see no way out, you learn to trust. When you feel nothing, you learn to endure. When you don't understand, you learn to surrender. What if I told you that you're just one step away from a new season, and that step involves staying silent and not giving up? Consider how a sculptor works. They look at a raw block of marble and see a masterpiece within. Before the beauty emerges, they must chip away, cut, and polish. The marble feels the pain but doesn't know it's being sculpted. That's how God works with us. He sees what no one else sees. He knows what we cannot yet comprehend. In the silence, He's shaping us. Look at Jesus. Before His ministry, He spent 40 days in the wilderness. Silence, temptation, solitude. When He emerged, He was ready. He was filled with the Spirit and strengthened. You may be in your own wilderness right now, thinking it's the end, but it's not the end. It's just the beginning of something much greater. What you choose to do in this silent season determines what's to come. I'd like to challenge you with something simple. For 7 nights, before you go to bed, instead of crying or complaining. Close your eyes and say, God, I trust what you're doing, even though I don't understand. Just that. Let that act of surrender ease your soul, night after night. Today, what you're going through may feel dark, painful, and meaningless, but one day you'll look back and realize it was in that silence that God spoke to you the most. Don't mistake a difficult moment for the end of the story. Don't trade your faith for immediate answers. And please, don't give up just because it still hurts. God hasn't brought you this far to abandon you halfway. He is faithful to finish the good work He began in you. Trust Him. Hold on a little longer. God's silence often precedes the most incredible miracles you'll ever experience. There are times in life when pain screams so loudly within us that all we want is to vanish, to disappear, to stop existing. We feel we can't bear it anymore, that no one understands us, that the world would go on unchanged if we weren't here. This suffocating sensation, this deep anguish, perhaps you're feeling it right now. If you are, I want you to hear this truth with all your heart. The pain you feel today might be the very tool God will use to transform your life and, through it, change the lives of others too. Can you imagine that? That this pain that makes you cry in secret, that eats away at you, could become a powerful testimony, could become the hope someone else needs when they are also on the verge of giving up? Because it's true, your suffering, no matter how senseless it seems now, can serve a purpose. This doesn't make the pain any less real or any easier to bear, but it gives it a new meaning, a new destination. Remember Job? He didn't just lose a few things. He lost everything. His children, his health, his wealth, his reputation. Even his wife and friends turned away from him. Yet, even as he sat in ashes, covered in wounds, not understanding what was happening, he declared, "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Job 1 verse 21. Who, in their right mind, is able to praise in the midst of loss? Who has the strength to say, "Blessed be your name," while everything falls apart? Only those who know the God who turns tragedy into testimony. Job went through all of this. And what was the outcome? God restored everything double. But the greatest miracle was not the restoration. It was a faith that survived the fire. It was a testimony that still echoes today. And perhaps you are going through something that doesn't make sense yet. Perhaps you've lost someone you loved. Perhaps you're facing a diagnosis that frightens you. Perhaps your heart was shattered into 1,000 pieces by someone you trusted. Perhaps life has hit you with blows that no one saw. And you try to smile, you try to keep going, but inside, you're drained. But what if I told you that you're not alone? That there are thousands of people going through pain as intense as yours? That there are people who also cry in silence, who also think about giving up, and that what may save them tomorrow is hearing what you've overcome today? Look at the life of Nick Vujicic. He was born without arms and legs. Imagine the bullying, the exclusion, the internal pain of feeling different since birth. At 10 years old, he tried to drown himself in the bathtub at his home. He wanted to die, but God intervened. And today, Nick is an international speaker, having spoken to millions of people in dozens of countries. He got married, has children, and has written books. All of this because he didn't give up on the darkest day, because he chose to turn his pain into a mission. Now, think about your story. Think about what you've already survived. The days you thought you couldn't bear, but you did. The nights you cried yourself to sleep, but woke up the next day. Think of everything that tried to bring you down. And see, you're still here. And what if everything you've been through, and are still going through, is exactly what will strengthen you for what's to come? Maybe you are being prepared to lift others with your voice, with your experience, with your scars. Because there is no testimony without battle. There is no healing without a wound. There is no resurrection without death. You know that pain you think no one would understand? It could be the bridge that connects your heart to someone else's, someone who is also losing their way. And that's why you need to keep going. Not just for you, but for everything that is yet to come from you. Imagine in a few months, or perhaps years, someone hearing your story and saying, "It was what you went through that saved me. It was what you lived through that gave me the strength to carry on." This is real. It happens. Every day. People who didn't give up, even when they had every reason to, have become beacons to others who were in the dark. And yes, there are days when we don't have the strength to pray. And that's okay. In those moments, you don't need to say anything. Just cry in God's presence. Give him what you cannot carry, because even your tears are prayer. Even your silence, he hears. And believe, God gathers every tear. The Bible says in Psalm 56 verse 8 that he stores our tears in a bottle. Not a single one is wasted. So, take a deep breath and listen carefully. What you are living today is not the end of your story. It's just a chapter, perhaps the hardest one, but still only a chapter. And God is an excellent author. He knows how to finish well. And he certainly won't end your story in the moment of pain. Because those who trust in the Lord may weep for a night, but joy comes in the morning. If you are waiting for this new dawn, don't give up now. Don't stop now, because you might be just one prayer away from a breakthrough. And even if that breakthrough takes time, the process will strengthen you so that, when it arrives, you will be ready to experience it deeply. Make this your truth. The pain you feel today will be the testimony that transforms lives tomorrow. And if you still have strength, even if it's little, write this phrase somewhere. I will not give up, because God is still using my pain for something much greater. Read it every day, until your faith is greater than your fear, until your hope overcomes despair. Because you are not defined by what you have suffered. You are defined by who sustains you in the midst of suffering. And that someone is God himself. The same one who turns mourning into dancing, ashes into a crown, dirt into a platform, pain into purpose. How many times have you looked at yourself and thought, I've ruined everything? How many times have you felt unworthy to continue, to try again, to seek something new, simply because you believe your past condemns you? Perhaps you carry a mistake you made years ago, a hasty choice, a word spoken at the wrong time, a betrayal, a relapse, a decision that changed everything. And ever since, even without speaking it aloud, you carry within you the mark of someone who believes they no longer deserve anything good. But listen with an open heart. You are not what happened to you. You are not your mistake. You are who God says you are. Do you know what else silently destroys lives today? It's not just external problems, but internal guilt. It's that voice whispering all the time, you're not good enough. You'll never change. God won't use you after what you did. Have you heard those voices? Have you found yourself surrounded by thoughts that make you feel like a walking failure? You are not alone. The Bible shows us that even the greatest heroes of faith also failed. Take Peter, for example, one of Jesus' closest disciples. He saw miracles. He walked on water. He swore he would never abandon the Master. And what did he do? Denied Jesus 3 times. At the most critical moment, when Jesus needed support the most, Peter said, I do not know him. Imagine the pain, the shame, the weight of that failure. Peter wept bitterly. Perhaps at that moment, he thought he would never again be worthy to even look up at the sky. But what did Jesus do? Did he cancel Peter? Did he abandon Peter? No. Jesus restored Peter. He did not reject him because of the mistake. On the contrary, after the resurrection, Jesus went to him and asked 3 times, Do you love me? 1 question for each denial. And then he gave him the grandest mission, feed my sheep. In other words, take care of my people. I trust you. Do you understand this? The same Peter who denied Jesus became the leader of the early church. The one who failed miserably became the one who, filled with the Holy Spirit, preached and led 3,000 people to Jesus in a single day. That is grace. That is redemption. And that is also available to you. Now think, how many times have you stopped trying, stopped seeking, stopped dreaming, because you felt dirty, flawed, too small? How many opportunities have you rejected out of fear of being judged, of not being good enough, of believing there is no hope left? You may have made poor choices. You may have hurt people. You may have lost your way. But even so, you have not lost your worth. Your worth has never been defined by your achievements or failures, but by the unconditional love that God has for you. And if this seems too good to be true, I understand you, because the world teaches you that those who deserve punishment. But heaven works with mercy. The world looks at the past. God looks at your future. The world defines you by what you have done. God calls you by what you are yet to become. Did you know that the Apostle Paul once persecuted Christians? He approved of executions. He was feared. Yet, he had an encounter with Jesus that changed everything. God not only forgave him, he raised him up as the greatest missionary of the church. Paul wrote nearly half of the New Testament. The one who once destroyed began to build, because God loves to transform those whom the world has already given up on. So listen to me. It doesn't matter how far you've gone. It doesn't matter how big the mess is. God is an expert in rebuilding broken lives. He is not looking for perfection. He is looking for a sincere heart. A heart that says, God, I failed, but if there's still hope, transform me. And there is hope. There's always hope. As long as there's life, there is hope. And if you think you've gone too far, sinned too much, hurt too many, remember, no one is more powerful than God's forgiveness. Perhaps you need to forgive yourself. Perhaps what's holding you back isn't the mistake itself, but how much you've punished yourself after it. It's time to let that go, to look in the mirror and see someone in the process. Someone who still has so much to live. Someone who may fall, but chooses to rise. If you need a sign to start over, here it is. This message, this moment, this thump on your chest that says, there's still something great reserved for me. Don't ignore it. And if you want to take a practical step, do this. Grab a piece of paper and write down everything that you feel condemns you. Everything. And then write over it, forgiven, restored, starting again. Keep this paper as a reminder you no longer live under condemnation. You live under grace. Because in the end, the greatest lie of the enemy is to convince you that you are finished. But God's truth is clear. You are just getting started. You are not your mistake. You are the beloved child of a God who will never give up on you. Never. Have you ever lived a moment when everything fell apart at once? When something that was stable, secure, constant, suddenly ends. A door closes. A relationship ends. A dream dies. And you find yourself standing there, looking at nothing, trying to understand what just happened. It's as if the ground has disappeared. And the heart seems to scream. It's over. From here on, nothing makes sense. But let me tell you something that perhaps you've never stopped to think about. The end of a season is not the end of your story. It may seem like it. It may hurt as if it were. But God doesn't close a door to punish you. He closes it because it's about to show you a new one that you haven't yet seen. How many times do we insist on keeping something alive that God has already finished? How many times do we continue trying to breathe in places where the air is gone, begging for what has already fulfilled its purpose to stay? And when that thing finally falls, it hurts, because no one likes to lose. No one likes to start over from scratch. It's scary. It's insecure. But do you know what hurts more? Staying stuck in something that no longer has life. God, many times, allows certain structures in your life to collapse, not because he wants to destroy you, but because he wants to rebuild you on a deeper level. He allows endings not as punishment, but as a new beginning, because he sees what you can't yet perceive. And sometimes, what you believe was your everything was actually just the start of something much larger. The Bible is full of fresh starts. Abraham had to leave his land, his comfort zone, to live out a promise. Ruth saw her marriage end with the death of her husband and still chose to move forward, and God placed her in the genealogy of Jesus. The people of Israel spent 40 years in the wilderness before entering the promised land. All of this shows us one thing. Before great promises come, great processes. And the end of one cycle is part of the process. Are you willing to trust that God knows what he's doing, even when everything seems lost? Because it is precisely in the chaos that he works the most. The Apostle Paul said, "We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him." Not some things, not just the good things, all things, even what makes you cry today. Maybe you've lost someone who was your foundation. Maybe it was a job that provided stability. Maybe it was a dream that seemed so certain, but suddenly collapsed. Maybe you invested everything in a project that simply didn't work out. And now, here you are, wondering if it's still worth trying again. What if I told you it is? That starting over is one of the greatest expressions of faith there is? Because starting over takes courage. Starting over is saying, I don't know what lies ahead, but I trust the one who is with me. It's taking a step even when you can't see the ground. It's moving forward with a heart that's been mended. Steve Harvey, one of the greatest TV hosts in the United States, experienced this. He lost everything, slept in his car, went hungry, was humiliated, but he kept the faith. He says he told himself every day, "God, I know you didn't bring me this far to abandon me." And years later, not only did he rise again, but he became a global inspiration, because he understood failure is not the end. It's part of the process. And maybe that's exactly what you need to hear today. That the cycle that has ended, the painful phase, is not a full stop. It's a comma, a space for pause, reflection, growth. Your heart may be tired. Your eyes may be swollen from crying so much. But God is still writing your story. And He never leaves anything unfinished. I know that starting over can seem frightening. It's scary not knowing what comes next. But what if what's to come is better than everything that has passed? What if the pain you feel right now is the announcement of a new season? A season where you will mature, bloom, and experience things you never imagined? Make this truth your own. Your story is not over. It's just turned the page. And now, God is leading you into something new. You may not see it yet, but you will. You may not understand it now, but you will. What seems like an end today will be a testimony tomorrow. And if you want to take a step of faith, even with fear, here's a suggestion. Spend 10 minutes of your day, for the next 5 days, speaking to God without asking for anything. Just thank Him for what has ended. Thank Him even through tears. Say, "Lord, I don't understand, but I trust." This small act of faith could open a new horizon before your eyes. Don't fight against the endings that God allows. Sometimes, it's necessary to lose in order to be set free. It's necessary to close one chapter for the next one to begin. And I promise you this, God never shuts a door without having already opened a window filled with light on the other side. If you're here right now, listening to this, it's because there's still a way forward. There's still a purpose. There's still a plan. And the end you wept over might actually be the best new beginning of your life. Don't give up. Don't stop. The new season is already on its way.